A short while back, I showcased my favourite boss fights of all time. Most of them final bosses, loving them more for the nostalgic memories and emotions I have, as well as just being very enjoyable and well put together bouts. But they were my favourite, good boss fights. So today, I'll be taking a look at 10 terrible final boss fights that in some cases ruin otherwise amazing or at least decent game experiences. Now as usual, I'm limited by what I've played, and while I do feel like all of these bosses should be viewed as trash officially, this is still a personal list. And yes, this is entirely about final boss fights, so a spoiler warning is certainly required before we get into it. I'm also basing this list on a few things. The fight itself, if it's bad, boring, repetitive, if the music or some other detail ruins it, as well as how it impacts and reflects the rest of the game. So with that, let's get started at number 10. We're starting off with a newer game in today's video, Watch Dogs 2. Now technically this game finishes with a final mission split into sections, but it's terrible and fresh in my mind, so it gets a mention. Starting off, for some fuck all reason, it is, as far as I know, the only time you get to play as different characters. Wrench, who I really like, and the fucking girl who is so bland I keep forgetting she even exists. All she does is walk around for a bit and do a puzzle, much simpler than others throughout the rest of the game, and that's it. Okay, well what was the point? Same thing with Wrench, we blow stuff up for a minute or two and then that's it. Why? It seems like they're trying to capitalise on that GTA 5 gimmick, but it's so poorly executed that it's just sad. From here, the level is much the same as everything else. Not easier or harder, it's just a rehash with nothing different, so it falls flat. Without an actual showdown with a genuinely good bad guy, who's been portrayed as a bit of a psycho the entire game, all we get is a dull cutscene and nothing of value to take with us for playing. I guess the message is supposed to be brain's triumph over brawn, but it just comes across as lol, we hacked you, and that's it. What a woeful start to this list. The Spider-Man 2 movie game is one I've heard much praise for, and after playing it for the first time last year, I can see why. You all forgot to take your rose-tinted glasses off. Doc Ock is easily one of my favourite villains of all time, period. I've always been a big fan of cyborg, half-robotic type characters in my games and movies, and the multiple metal limbs gimmick should have translated great into a video game, or so you'd think. The final boss, of course, takes place in a cramped warehouse. The game, with a wonky-ass camera outside, forces you inside for a web-swinging battle, finding control panels and doing the same boring QuickTime shit we've done for every other Ock encounter. The dialogue is such a downer and it takes so long to do this. QuickTime event, get a hit in, and then avoid some shit, all while wrestling against the ceiling with the in-game camera, and not even a good song to get you in the mood for ass kicking. It's fucking lame, a consistent theme for this title. Now when discussing terrible Crash Bandicoot boss fights, most of them come to mind in all honesty. Though to be fair, majority aren't even that bad, just very easy with such memorable characters and music that it does save them. But the one Bandicoot boss battle I've always thought was just plain awful was Nitrous Oxide in Crash Bash. Of course, it starts out with a chase through space a la Star Fox, except totally desperate, ending with a game of Pong 28 years past its prime. And of course, it's got all of this extra shit going on. Missiles to avoid, instant death balls, and Oxide in general just refusing to go down. I swear, this fight is designed to require multiple failed attempts before the game unlocks the correct pattern for Oxide, allowing the player to win easily. Because that's what happens. You struggle for 20 minutes and don't even come close, only to pull it off without an issue when it's all said and done. Complete bullshit, I say. Fucking Skyheed! That name alone should indicate why we're talking about this. Jak and Daxter The Lost Frontier, of course, is a poorly executed title forced out onto the PSP during the development of the first Uncharted, and then ported to PlayStation 2. Sometimes you'll find shit games actually end with something half decent, but this is the worst part! Starting off with a pathetic puberty joke from Daxter.
Ooh, so touchy. Has someone been going through some changes?
This is a boring battle in an empty arena. No music, no strategy, and no goddamn patience for all of these repetitive quotes spewed out every so often. You just run around waiting for stuff to happen, and occasionally try to dodge his homing attacks. Try being the key word in that statement. It's so slow, and when you finally beat it, you still have to chase him in the slowest spaceship race ever, and then blow his super ship out of the sky with this game's broken ass all range mode. For a game this shitty, such an anticlimactic ending makes everything else feel... well, I was going to say tolerable, but no! This entire thing is pure filth! At least the level leading up to Skyheed isn't a total disaster. The final gauntlet in future Rama The Only Fucking Game, however, is so void of competent thought that it's shocking to me. The 2 levels prior to the end boss are riddled with number puzzles lacking consistency that drain your lives faster than you can say. Fry's level is severely worse, but at least the game isn't running like shit. If you're able to get through, or look up a walkthrough, you'll find one of the most boring efforts at a final boss I think I've ever seen. All you do is shoot him a bit, walk into a room for items, go back and shoot him some more. It's so short but so painful to witness, made even worse by the fact it took me over 10 years to finally reach this myself. Compared to the other mediocre bosses in the game, this is just so much worse. It's astonishing. And all for an ending hinged on a single unfunny gag. Worthless. Here is one a little more recent to the channel this year, but in my review of Perfect Dark Zero on Xbox 360, I barely had anything to say of the final boss, because it was terrible. We ascend up to the heavens, or the nether realm, whatever the fuck, and have to fight this Super Saiyan Sushi Lord. The Jack dude jumps around various platforms and throws pillars at you. The only thing you have to do is shoot, shoot, fucking shoot. So while calling him Sushi Lord was a little racist, I can't help but mention, you practically gotta squint your eyes to even find him in your crosshair, I guess making this a fair fight. Every so often, he'll come down to your level and take about 28 grenade rounds to the face like a fucking champ, and you're supposed to make him drop his sword so that you can attack. Good luck figuring that out the first few tries. The longer it goes on, the more ammo you drain, resulting in just standing around watching what is essentially a stunt show as he jumps about summoning ammo for you so that you can keep killing him. Because I guess he's sick of it too. So fuck it, let's move on before we all fall asleep. What do you get when you build a map too big for system limitations, filled with so many enemies that a peak frame rate is 10 frames per second, and force the player to run through it as fast as possible, trying to delicately aim at a runaway villain, known only to the people who've watched the movie because Rareware failed to get over the otherwise brilliant narrative here? You get a clusterfuck of garbage-riddled game design, so toxic that I've still got a headache from playing this almost 3 months ago. I can't stress enough the trauma induced here, trying to float down stairs and through doorways, constantly getting stuck on the environment, making it near impossible to hit your target. If you don't hit him enough, you'll be doing lap after lap after lap of this structure, forever chasing the light at the end of a dark, dark tunnel. When the game finally decides it's time to go home, have fun climbing down this ladder and getting blasted to shit. Or even better, falling off the tiny platform only to teleport back on, only to get blasted to shit anyway because I put the controller down thinking I was already dead. Great! Fuck this game. Oh no, not Symphony of the Night. This game is a pure classic of the industry with so many great locations within Dracula's castle, each with their own resident monster waiting to murder Alucard. It's pure bliss, so tell me, how in the fuck did they mess up the final boss so bad? For starters, you have to face Shaft first in what I can only refer to as a barrage of bullshit. Once he's defeated and some robotic voice acting later, we come face to face with Dracula, finally. He looks so amazing, like the symbiote got a grip on him, but the other visuals and music just aren't appealing. Not to mention he's hard as balls. Now listen, I'm sure this fight is actually amazing, but with the correct item, a shield no less, all you have to do is fucking stand there and wait for him to die. Death by shield. What kind of pussy is he? Like I said, done correctly, this is probably a wonderful boss fight. Hell, I've tried it and it's fairly challenging and an overall solid end to the game, but defeated by a shield? The fact that it's even an option is unforgivable! Compared to an otherwise epic tale of legendary proportion, the final moments just feel like nothing. The Alex Kidd series is just plain dull and childish. All can be beaten fairly easily with items and stages designed to not even require playing them. How fun is that? The 16-bit title, Alex Kidd and the Enchanted Castle, is the one I've played the most. God, I hate myself for even saying that. But the common theme across all the games is rock, paper, scissors. Yes, instead of boss fights, we have rock, paper, scissors. Step right up and waste a few lives to learn the patterns with no variation. So for the final stage, what can we do? Just make it a goddamn marathon of shitty platforming, item-specific puzzles, and some of the ugliest music ever conceived to pierce the player's ears. It takes so long to get through this run of hell, and to be honest, I've never actually done it. Either I get bored, or I get hit only once and die. And for what? Just to play rock, paper, scissors against this asshole? Oh, wow, look, an actual boss fight. And it's bad. Really, really bad. I have no words. Honestly, in my opinion, everything we've seen so far is so absolutely terrible, and somehow, we've still got one more. But before we battle our way through the final fight, here are some honourable mentions. Echo the Dolphin is possibly one of the top 10 hardest games I've ever played. Riddled with impossible level design, confusing objectives, and really, not much in the way of self-defense, I've honestly got no idea how or why anyone would ever want to tackle this game without some kind of cheat. But let's say you did it. 100% legit. You made it to the final area, the alien spaceship. It's at this point I'd like to point out, if you've never heard of this game, yeah, it's about a dolphin saving his family from aliens for shit's sake. So you make it this far, somehow manage to make it through 2 auto-scrolling levels, good luck with that, only to come across the final boss, get forced into an enemy sitting right in your way, taking 4 of your 5 hit points, swim down here to even get a look at the final boss. Too late, now you've got to go back through the second auto-scrolling level again just to get another shot. Unfucking acceptable. This is why kids misbehave. It's so unrealistically brutal with its difficulty that it just makes you want to scream out in pain and anger. Imagine making it this far in the early 90s, before internet, and being forced back. And even then, if you're able to get a second try, immediately take damage and fucking die again. This cunt-faced fucker is, put very fucking clearly, the most terrible final boss that I personally have ever seen. You know, this game was made more challenging to survive the video game rental market, so the game couldn't be beaten in a single sitting. You know, so that you get your money's worth. Well, I hope it was worth it, because I'd rather spend the rest of my days in the pitch black abyss of the untouched ocean floor than even attempt this monstrosity ever again. But until I learn to swim, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to let me know some final bosses you think are totally terrible with a comment down below, followed with liking, subscribing and sharing the video. I'm Square Eye Jack and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.